Hey guys, Delman here with a different kind of video for you awesome individuals. This one is more of a Star Citizen Theorycraft based off of the information that we currently know from what the developers have told us from CIG, combining what Chris Roberts, Tony Zurvek, and what Aaron Kyman Davis, who recently confirmed. So yeah, this is basically about Star Citizen survival. How are you going to survive on a planet, say the war should happen, or, general food supplies and things like that in the verse, and how your character is going to work. All these fun little functions we're going to basically look at today. So we're going to use the Carrack as our primary example ship here. It's a fantastic exploration vessel that we can use for this section of the video. So let's say you have your Carrack, you have some cargo. It's got 1000 SU of cargo as of making this video available to it. You've got your max crew of 6, so let's say you have your 6 guys on board. It's a pretty big ship with a length of 123.5 meters, beam of 63.5 meters, and a height of around 30 meters. It's a pretty big ship, and it's pretty heavy too. So let's say you've got your rover on board and you're out ready to go and map some terrain or find some new planets that are undiscovered. Right, so you discover a brand new planet and you're like, oh, this is pretty good. Let's go in for a closer look and get more in-depth information. So, let's say you're flying down to this planet. You've got your 6 crew members. You tell a couple of your crew members to get on some scanning equipment and do some sort of surveying. And stuff like that. So they get out of their seats and they go to basically move to those positions. So now you have a couple of crew members who are not fastened down on board the ship. And you're trucking along, you're getting a little bit closer and closer to the ground, trying to get more of a detailed kind of scan of the planet's geometry or whatever. And then all of a sudden, atmospheric conditions are unstable. You hit, like, let's say, a pocket of God knows what, maybe electromagnetism from an element on the planet, who knows what. They're going to be bringing this in for some planets in terms of certain areas which you are incapable of flying through, so you have to use ground vehicles. But let's say that you're a little too late for that now. You've been flying through this atmospheric conditions unsafe kind of section for too long. You're losing thrusters on board your ship. You're losing control. The pilot's telling you, hey, this ain't good. I'm trying to pull out of here. You're starting to lose altitude and get closer and closer to the ground. As you're losing altitude, the inside of the ship is bouncing around. They're talking about how they're going to add physics and stuff that'll act upon the inside of the ship with external forces. So let's say your ship is wobbling. The crew members who are now walking around are basically moving around trying to find their way back to a seat before they jostle around. You hit the top of a canopy of a forest with the underside of your vessel. That gives it a real hard bang. You start to lose more control. Those 2 crew members have just gone flying and are most likely dead from impact damage, and boom, there you go. You've just hit the ground. Your ship is now a derelict. You've hit the ground. Your ship is pretty much totaled. And you have to now do a damage report of how you're going to survive on this strange new alien world. So now is a really important time to basically check to see if you stocked up those food supplies and stuff like that, and repair equipment, and assess the damage, well, the full depth of the damage on your ship. As we know, Star Citizen is going to have a very detailed and in-depth repair mechanic, and that's pretty good for those of you who want to be engineers out there. So let's say your Carrack's now resting on the planet's surface, like pretty much a crumpled wreck. The rover on board is intact, but you're running low on resources. You didn't necessarily pack as much food as you should have. Now, the reason they're going to have this hunger and things in the game, they already talked about having fatigue, making your character get hungry, get tired, and all these things. The reason they have to have that in there is because if you was to, say, crash land on a planet and this wasn't part of the game, you could survive indefinitely. And it adds a whole new element to the game, which is survival, and survival is a really fun thing in games like this. So let's say you're now on this planet surface, you've got enough food to last you, let's say, a week of real time. Now, we know the food system is not going to be as bad as it is in other games like Ark Survival Evolved, where if you don't eat every 15 minutes, you're going to start to die. It's not going to be that bad. It's going to be more on a energy used kind of basis. So let's say you use loads and loads of energy. As we know, running in 3.0 with heavy armor is going to make your character tired, and your stamina is going to be wearing down. It basically is going to be something I can imagine that taps into something like that. So let's say you have your character and, you've been running around the interior of the ship, not using too much energy, doing too many activities. You've got a couple of guys repairing stuff. You've got a couple of crew members who are dead, because of the sheer damage they took on impact of the ground. They are NPCs, so they are now permanently dead. They're gone. Finito. So you're now down to 4 crew members. Now, they did say that your NPC crew members, if you don't shower, will react differently to you, and I find that very interesting. But we're going to focus on more of the survival aspects right now. So we'll say you've got an NPC crew. It's you and your, like, 3 remaining people you have left. So you're trying to survive now. You're looking through your food stores. You got enough food for that amount of time. But the question is, you've now discovered this strange planet that no one else has. You've got this super valuable data on board that is worth a small fortune. Question is, do you radio for help and have some random person come to basically your aid and get the information of this planet, so you basically lose the rights to being the sole explorer, like, you know, sole guy gathering all this information, this planet. You know, basically have to share this now with someone else who is to come rescue you? Or do you try and survive for a long enough amount of time that you can basically get one of your buddies who's also playing the game to come down and pick you up, you know, and basically you give him a small amount of money, like credits, but you get the full exploration benefits of being the guy who claimed first dibs on the planet. So now let's say you go down that road and you now have to survive for, let's say, a week of in-game time. Now there are going to be all sorts of various things that are going to make your life hell, trying to survive in this derelict of a ship. There's the fact that your NPC crew members will react to different conditions and things like that. So you may have to sabotage your own ship, such as your beacons and stuff, so an NPC crew member can't use it. You may have a mutiny, you may have all sorts of crises on your hands. Then there's the food situation and supplies and things like this. And then there's wildlife on that planet. You don't know what there could be. There could be all sorts of various dangerous creatures. Then there's adverse weather conditions. We already saw the sandstorm and the sandworm and all these other things they're creating. This could get very difficult very quickly. So how would you try to survive in these environments? And that's what we're going to try and cover in today's video. So buckle in to your escape pod and be ready to be jettisoned, because it's going to be a bumpy ride. So it's now come to that time where you're ready to leave the safety of your derelict ship, now turned mobile home, or, well, less mobile, more home, and you've decided it's time to leave the safety of your ship and start gathering more data on foot or with your Ursa rover. So you leave the safety of your ship. Now there's all sorts of various things you're going to have to contend with. What's a day-night cycle on the planet like? Where is the first viable means to collect resources to survive on? Tony Zerbeck talked before about how you'd have to gather food from the environment and things like this. How are you going to do that? What is edible? What is not edible? Obviously, your suit is going to tell you the composition of what the planet's atmosphere is, what the pressure is like. Is it safe to breathe? Things like that. What it will not tell you necessarily right away will be things like extreme weather fronts moving in. So let's say you're about to leave your ship and an extreme weather front moves in. Now they talked about how weather is going to be something that will lower the integrity of outposts and ships and things like that, and actually cause wear and tear. Depending on how severe the storm is, you might want to really batten down the hatches in that broken down carrack of yours. Let's say you have a couple of crew members outside, more NPC crew members, one of them's outside repairing something, this storm front moves in. Let's say it's a bad one, an electrical storm, dust storm, you name it. The weather storm, the storm moves in, lightning sparking. One of your NPC crew members manages to scramble and get back inside the ship. You seal the doors in a hurry. You leave 2 guys out there, and then boom, all of a sudden, one of them gets swept away, and like with the storm, and he's gone, and the other one is toast also. We'll say that he was hit by debris or something. So you're now down to you and 1 NPC crew member, and things have gone from bad to worse in a relatively short period of time, and that's how long it really takes for things to get really bad in situations like this. If you look at real life, for an example here, they always tell you when it comes to survival training and things like that, that a situation can go from normal to extremely dangerous in a matter of seconds or minutes. It's really hard to judge a situation just from like the initial first glance. You have to really prepare for the worst, no matter what the circumstance. So let's say now you're down to you and your buddy, or your last NPC crew member, who, you know, well, look at the positives. You're not going to need to be paying those remaining crew members who are now no longer with you, but you still have one guy left, and this dude's going to be necessary, obviously, for your survival, for when you go out there to try and find resources. So let's say you go out in your Ursa rover, you're trucking along the planet's surface from your ship, and you got to remember, the further you get away from your ship, the further you are from safety if a storm moves in or something like that. So I'd recommend staying relatively close by to your ship unless there is no other option. So we'll go with there's no other option. You're driving along, your scanner's picked up a type of oasis close by, where there could be, you know, water and things like this, or food, whatever it is. So you're driving out there in your Ursa with your one dude who you have left. He's got his machine gun or whatever to protect you against any alien creatures you may come across. The most important thing here to guide you guys is to always look at your fuel reserves of your rover, because the further you got to look at how much fuel you have, how much you've spent, and how much you'll need to get home. You don't want to go all the way out there and be like, oh well, I barely made it to the lagoon. I'm on very, you know, like I'm running on fumes. Now you've got none to get back to your primary point of safety, and your only means of like your definite sort of waypoint of where someone will come to pick you up. You don't want to lose that. So let's say you stopped your Ursa rover, you got out, you're now basically scanning the local environment with maybe a handheld device or something in a special version of an exploration rover you have. Maybe it's the tracked version that you'll have up on your screen now, or something else we haven't seen yet. So you're out there looking amongst like the shrubbery and stuff for something to eat, and boom, wildlife attack. We don't know what sort of wildlife you may come into contact with, whether it be a ginormous sandworm or some small parasite creature or something far, far worse. We do not know. So let's say we'll give you the benefit of the doubt and say you're able to escape this creature, this rampaging monster of a beast, as you scuttle back to your rover, but unfortunately your last remaining crew member, it wasn't so lucky. You're having about as much luck as Captain Kirk surrounded by red shirts. It's not going well. You jump back in your rover and you make a beeline back for your Carrack. Now this is something that's very important. You now have to remember where your Carrack is. If you've turned off all the beacons and things, or maybe it's lost its power to its antennas and things like that, so you can't really transmit its position, you're going to need to save a waypoint on your Mobiglass, and I'm hoping it's possible to do so. So you get back to your Carrack. Your rover is now completely out of fuel, so you won't be using that anytime again soon. And your Carrack's fuel tank was ruptured in the crash, so that's it. Whatever you have in your Carrack in terms of energy is what you have left. Your rover is now basically a dead stick, and you now have to try to survive on the food supplies that you have left. It'll be interesting to see how you try to ration out these food supplies, but you've got to remember, you want to have that beacon available in that Carrack, so when you do have your buddy to come pick you up, he'll know exactly where you are. Now it's time to do repairs. So when you're repairing, you need to remember always, if you are going to go out exploring, guys, to always carry, like, you know, spares and things like this. They talked about this recently with their ship matrix post about how components you'll need spares and things like that when they wear out. And no doubt in a crash, a lot of stuff is going to break. So expect to always carry extra computers, extra blades for those computers, all sorts of various equipment that may help you in the event that you need to repair everything. Now, no doubt this is where obviously exploration is going to be expensive, and this is where a majority of your cargo hold is going to be taken up with things like your rover, additional equipment, modules, all sorts of things you'll need to put on board your ship, repairs, repair equipment, so spares for everything, and all these various different bits and pieces are going to be essential. So let's say you're now repairing your vessel. This is where things could get frustrating. Another storm front could move in and take more pieces of your ship with it as it leaves, so you'll have to now do another repair. And this is where things are going to now also go towards burning energy. So you've been doing all these repairs, you've been sprinting in and out of your ship, constantly moving around doing stuff. Your energy is now going to start to burn relatively quickly, and you're going to need to basically eat something. And now you're going to be cutting into your food reserves, and if you didn't pack many, you're going to be in serious trouble. Your Ursa rover is now toast, pretty much. It's out of gas. You don't have any edible resources nearby to you, and That's it. If you whatever you have in your cupboards is what you're going to rely on to survive. And this is where this dynamic in the game really intrigues me. Your character is also going to need to rest, but that'll happen when you log out. And this is why ships have beds and things like this. So you'll need to go into your bed, log out. When you log back on, your character will be well rested, and then you'll have to go about your activities, get something to eat halfway through your game session. If you have maybe a 6-hour game session, your character will probably need to eat once. So there's all these various things that you'll need to do, and it really is interesting to me because in my opinion that it's important that the game has these features in it, because otherwise exploration becomes a very dull and boring thing after maybe like the 30th time you've done it without any kind of activity. It's important to have eating and resting in a game like Star Citizen, because otherwise it becomes too much like almost every other game out there where it's not necessary to do those things. There's not many space games that have this much like level of depth and like immersion and things like that. It's very important that they keep to that road, and this is what really makes me happy is Tony Zurvek and Chris Roberts have stressed multiple times in the past about these survival mechanics and how they're needed and how they're actually going about it. And the stamina system is the first basically stop on this track towards this type of survival. It's all ties in together to one another, so like everything will spin off of each other when it comes to survival. Your stamina will be affected by your food. You'll need to rest, all these various things. Oxygen, what the atmosphere is like built up on. But yeah, all these things are very important in Star Citizen, and this is what really intrigues me. So it all depends on where you crash land, folks, whether it be on some lush jungle world that has a nice atmosphere to it, or if it's a moon where there's no breathable atmosphere, you might be even more trouble because you're going to rely on the oxygen reserves of your ship and your suits. So these are all the various things you're going to have to worry about, and I absolutely love it. But yeah, enough about me going off on a tangent of how great the game is, so let's continue here. It's been a week. You've cut it close, but you've managed to get your food reserves, and you turn on your beacon, and your buddy's now on his way to pick you up. Now here's the thing that could get you killed. You've now run out of food, but hey, you know, it's been a week. Your buddy's logged onto the game. He's now going to come rescue you, and that's great news. Maybe your buddy was out on a business trip in the real world, and now he's able to play the game. So he jumps in his Constellation, and let's say he's a little further away than you thought. So it takes 8 minutes to jump from a planet to a planet, as they've shown us, and it could even take longer than that to other various planets and moons. And you are exploring. So chances are he's going to be a few systems away from you. And as we know, jump points are usually on the other end of the system to each other. So you'll need to wait for your buddy to come out, exit a jump point, then quantum travel to a few planets to be able to align himself with the next quantum jump point to the like they say, the wormhole, and then jump to that wormhole. It could possibly take him 15 hours or more to get to you, and that means you're dead for sure. And that's all because you did not want to share that data, and that's where greed gets you. So if you ever become stranded, always choose the first option, which is radio for help immediately whenever you can. Do not try and hold on to that information, because that information is useless if you die, especially with permadeath being a thing in the game. So let's say your character, okay, they've talked about how characters' permadeath function is likely to work. It's going to be on a system of lives. Your body will have a series of lives. Eventually, if those lives will wear out, you're permadead, and then you'll be sent to your beneficiary character. And then basically you'll inherit reputation, money, a little bit of reputation, a little bit of the money, and your ships if you had the correct insurance on them. If you didn't, you will lose them. So please take that into mind, folks. I'll do another video on insurance later. So this has covered this episode of Star Citizen Theorycraft. The moral of the story is don't be greedy, and always, always, always plan for the worst should it ever come to be, ever happen. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope this video has been informative and made you think about the way the game's going and different dynamics. And are you happy about this? Are you sad about this? Or are you in the middle? You're undecided? Or are you, like me, interested to see how detailed these mechanics are going to be and what direction they're going to take them? So yeah, thank you guys for watching. If you like this video series, please let me know in the comments below on what you actually liked about it, because if this video basically, if you guys didn't enjoy it too much, I will end this series here pretty much for the Star System Theorycraft thing, because I want to be able to cover multiple subjects, but if you guys aren't a big fan of Theorycraft, we can move away from it and we'll continue with other things. But yeah, I've got many more video series planned, such as the entirety of the ship matrix, all the ships in the ship matrix I should say. I'm going to be doing a video on every ship the Star System has ever basically come to concept. I will be doing a video on, with its stats, its history, everything on it. A bit like my Mega Ships videos, but now with the updated stats and everything, with a more detailed, in-depth look at the ships and stuff like that, and the manufacturers. We'll be doing it in alphabetical order, so from A to Z and everything in between. So, thank you guys for watching. You know the drill, Commanders. Fly safe, and remember, stack that extra can of beans on board, and I'll see you in the verse.